Against the Current is sponsored in part by ServPro of Pulaski and Laurel counties. When fire or water damage takes over your life, trust the team in green at ServPro to help you make it like it never even happened. They provide 24/7 service when you need it most. Give the local office a call at 606-877-2160 or online at servpro-pulaski-laurel-counties.com. Franchises are independently owned and operated. All right, so today I'm joined by Drs. Timothy Lonesky and Dr. Scott Lewis of Lake Cumberland Rheumatology, with offices here in Somerset, London, Danville, New Albany, Indiana, and most recently, Bowling Green. And we'll touch on more on that later. Dr. Lonesky went to undergrad at, I'm not even going to try to butcher this, so I'll let you tell me.
Juniata,
where he played both men's basketball and football, not also while being pre-med, I'm assuming, too. I've seen the guy play basketball, too, and he can still throw it down with the best of them. So do not challenge him on that. Dr. Lonesky completed med school at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Tim and his wife, Trudy, live here in Somerset with their 4 kids, Parker, Landon, Lola, and Penn. And Dr. Lewis went to undergrad at Marshall University, conference rival of my Western Kentucky Hilltoppers.
right?
And Dr. Lewis completed med school at the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. Scott and his wife, Sarah, also live here in Somerset with their 3 kids, Owen, Evan, and Ava. So, important question first. Who rules the roost in each household? My guess would be Lola and Ava, just because I know how it goes in my house.
Yes, that's true. Little girls went out.
Yep. No doubt about it. You can ask the boys; they'll tell you.
Yep.
I'm sure. I just have boys, but I know my 2-year-old will check my 6-year-old pretty fast. So next, what we're going to do here is a rapid fire series of questions. And with this next round, you could either gain significant credibility with the thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners on this podcast. I don't know what's so funny about that. Or you could completely lose it and risk.
I really thought we were in the millions by this point.
True. I guess I am underselling myself there a little bit.
You are.
So I'll go ahead and ask a few questions, and then without hesitation, just kind of give maybe the first answer that pops up for you. The last people I interviewed, I went a little bit more breakfast food type. I know you guys are a little bit more. Guys are very health conscious, so I don't want to make you craving like waffles and donuts and everything on a Friday. So that could get you. But since COVID has kept us homebound, and I guess we're so restricted, in light of that, has been your favorite vacation that you've taken?
By far, Portugal. Our trip over to Portugal was
nice.
A lot of fun.
Mine is probably Paris. That's by far. It was better than I anticipated. That's what I always tell people.
Nice. Okay. What is the last book or maybe article or podcast, obviously other than this one, that you most recently used or was your favorite?
Well, I'm currently reading my dad's second book, The Black Rose, and he's got a murder mystery series going.
Nice.
I'm listening podcast wise. I listen to Radical Personal Finance with Joshua Sheets. He's an interesting guy. He goes all over the place from Christianity to business to sales to prepping, and I mean you have homeschooling. He goes into all kinds of different subjects. So he's entertaining, and financially, it's a great show to listen to.
Okay. Finally, last question here. Love to win or hate to lose?
Love to win.
Hate to lose.
That's why we work so well together.
Yin and yang right there. I love it.
Yeah, I think I've always had more. I've always, which one do you have more emotions with? And it's losing has always been so much more emotionally draining than the reward of winning. So
I feel that. A lot of truth to that. All right, so we'll get in now to, I guess, more of the rheumatology side of things. So your first location you guys opened, it was here in Somerset, right?
Yeah.
Right. Back in 2007?
9 should have been, right?
2009, yeah.
2009, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is a little bit more twofold. Obviously, you guys went to different undergrad, different med school. Neither of you are from Kentucky. How did you guys first two connect? And then also why Somerset?
Well, we met in actually Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in our internal medicine residency. And from that, we were the only two out of that program that matched rheumatology that year. And he went further north to Dartmouth to get his fellowship, where I went further south to Charleston, South Carolina. And then after fellowship for both of us, Dr. Lonesky was looking for a small town to start a practice while I had to follow my wife for her training. And so he ended up here in Somerset, and I came and joined him 2 years later.
Okay. So he was in Mississippi for 2 years. Yeah. And then we had a great situation, right? Your wife, her family is not far from here, and his family, his parents are not far from here either. So it's kind of an ideal situation where her being an allergist had a job opportunity, and us here starting LCR was ideal for him to be here too.
Nice. I like that. So I'm guessing that probably helped alleviate maybe any concern with, I guess, the what if this doesn't work type plan. So, but was there ever like maybe a timeline, maybe on paper or in your head, like, hey, we're going to give this 12 months, 2 years, 3 years. If this doesn't grow like we think it should, we're gonna back up and punt.
Yeah, it was the first week that Dr. Lewis joined the practice. So, no, just, whenever you read about businesses, right? So we've been doing this for over a decade now. So we've gone through there's the adolescence, the childhood, the adolescence, and then mature businesses. And we're kind of at that, still in the growth atmosphere. But if you look at the beginning of most of businesses, they struggle. Everybody has a situation. And, healthcare, when you're a private practice, is very complex. I mean, you have to know each and every rule, regulation, the same as what a large hospital system does that has literally hundreds of employees that are part of it. So, we from all kinds of different aspects, contracting, billing. We really had some really significant times where we were down. And what it does, though, is it also makes you say, well, what kind of changes can we make? And the good thing about Dr. Lewis and myself is most partnerships people tell you to stay away from, right? Mm. So it's like a marriage. And, for him and I, we balance each other out really well. And him coming on made me, number one, look at things different too. And so we've grown and conquered what problems we were having previously. But without him being here, if I was doing it on myself, and oh my goodness, it would have been, who knows, I may have been one of those large statistics where you start a business and it doesn't make it past several years.
Right. Well, I think that's important too, with what you mentioned with you two guys working so well together. Obviously, if you guys have seen in growth, it's that much more important to have the right people in place throughout the practice as well to keep everything else running, not to mention just the patient care, which is obviously important, but everything else that goes with the business side of things.
Yeah. Forming a good team is so important. And that was one of the big things that we did together, is establish a culture to make it a very fun, enjoyable place to come to work, and with the expectation that when you come work for us, you're going to work hard, but you're going to be invested in overall patient care.
What do you guys think that maybe you all do different, I guess, that promotes that hey, this is a fun place to work, but at the same time, you're going to be expected and held accountable to work hard, but we want you to enjoy it while you're here as well?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes from the top down, right? So being the owners of the practice, if we come in and we are lazy and are people that show up late or don't put in the work, or somebody spills something and you don't clean up afterwards and leave it there, then that just trickles down. And we kind of, especially when we started it, we were working together, we really read a ton of books, And we tried to figure out, well, what is the best way that we can have the culture that we want, where it's fun and active, but you got to be a hustler. You got to work here, and then kind of implemented that when it came to hiring people and building our team that we have. So, a lot of people when we interview, when we have so many people working for us now
we're in the mid-30s now.
Yeah, mid-30s. So, for us, it's more we hire the person, right? So I don't look to motivate people we hire. We look for motivated people, right? So one of the bigger changes and really things that have helped us the most is our hiring process and having the right people.
The other thing we did early on is we had weekly staff meetings, and we'd go around the room and basically have like a department report, so everybody knew what the front office staff was doing or the back staff was doing, medical assistants. So you never really got to that point of, oh, I don't think she's doing this or that. And you just kind of cut down all that gossip, and it brought together this team atmosphere. And now that we've expanded to all these offices, it's become more challenging to do that. But we've changed our software to adapt that to speed communication. And then we do a big get-together meeting with all the practices about every 2 months and do the same type of thing.
Yeah. You guys are the second ones I've now interviewed that have talked about how you've made, and I think it's crucial to both success of the people of the group I interviewed then and now, is having that team approach to where you're having these department reports. So, maybe an area that might be struggling, but if that area is struggling, you're all struggling until you help bring that person up and bring that department up. And I think that, like you said, adds more credibility to the culture you guys have built there with that.
Yeah. And we're very upfront with some of our very important roles that, really don't allow a lot of the rumor mill type stuff to get started.
Yeah. I think that's very important.
We always joke around, we only have two rules at this practice. And as you're in business for a while, you have all these different thoughts and everything, but it becomes pretty simple. And it's basically our two are, there's no gossip, because when you're gossiping or talking about other people, that spreads and that just infects the entire practice, right? So that gets against our culture. And the second thing we do is we say, you're not allowed to say that's not my job, because you're thinking more about yourself and individually, and we're healthcare. I mean, our job is to take care of patients. Our job is to make this the best experience that they have, to take wonderful care for people. So we've kind of boiled it down over the past years about those two things.
Every now and then, of course, people listening to this on the audio version won't see this, but when I'm putting my head down, it's because I'm writing notes, because I thought that was really impactful, and that was one thing I just wrote down because I think that goes a long way. So now let's talk transition a little bit. You've been in Somerset now, you kind of gotten your legs underneath you a little bit there, and you start the growth, stage of things. So you get to London. How was that transition like to where you added another office to it? So now you guys have to be in two places at once, almost.
Well,
yeah. So it's okay. So I actually just watched the movie again the other night called The Founder. Remember the guy from McDonald's? And if you watch the movie, the first time he tried to put McDonald's in, they just had so many different changes. They went through. There's a lot of problems that he had with quality, and essentially what we found is that to try to make things the same in each practice. The first time we did in London, it took a couple of years to get it to feel like Somerset, and then we went to Danville. It took less time. So as we're growing these, we're kind of making it so that, number one, we know what works. We know kind of the model that we want. So it's the transition going to Bowling Green compared to our first new office in London is just they're not comparable.
Yeah, we've got processes in place that standardize a lot of the things.
Yeah. So as you know, it comes down to systems, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of putting systems in place so that what we do in Somerset, the same way you do it to London, is the same as you do in Bowling Green. And one of the keys that we kind of do too is we try to minimize having the same job. in one way. So we try to centralize certain things into one location, and that's kind of the mothership here in Somerset. So what that does is also eliminates any kind of changes that could occur whenever you have another office. So as much as we can centralize into one location, we try to do.
Yeah. And I know within the medical industry as a whole, there's been a lot more adaptation of technology and emerging technologies. As a patient of yours, I can attest to that you guys have been very forward thinking and that kind of stuff as well. So I'm sure, obviously, there's still probably clinics just like you all that are probably, obviously with medical records, you have to be electronic, but I'm sure there's still a lot of paper to try to use. And I feel like you guys have probably gone way past that. How much do you think that has been critical to the success of expanding like this?
Well, I can tell you, as a medical student working with physicians in other locations, they would load up just boxes of charts to take to their satellite location. And if you had a patient show up at that satellite location, their chart wasn't there, you were out of luck.
Oh,
with
wow.
us, as long as we have internet access and a laptop, we've got the HIPAA compliant software. We can practice medicine really anywhere. You can throw us in a tent and we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the, technology-wise, when you have 5 offices and you have employees and personnel at each office, Dr. Lewis and I need to be communicated to
Right.
throughout the day. So, adapting and having technology where people can send us messages in a HIPAA compliant way and we can get back to them instantly, just makes it all so much smoother. So, and that's something that continues to grow. And as technology gets better, we continue to add things, which we're doing really every month.
Yes.
The one thing we always say is the constant thing here is that we're never constant. There is no, did you do it the same way as you did last year? And no, we're continuing to always try to improve and try to make it really the best business it possibly could be.
Yeah, the other thing we did is empowered our employees that if they see something that would make their job more efficient, bring it to us. We want to know about this. And if there's a device or something that would also make things more streamlined, then absolutely come talk to us. We're definitely open for this.
Nice.
Because the more efficient we are, the more patients we can get in. And in some markets, getting in to see a rheumatologist, you're going to be waiting 4 to 6 months. In our practice, it's not that way because we hustle.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a prime example of that. I obviously not being from here either. My rheumatologist before, even when I moved here to Somerset, was in Franklin, Tennessee, which is obviously nowhere close. But my thought was, well, I'm in Somerset. I might have to go to Lexington, obviously meet you guys, and that's the rest. That's the story from there. But I think that's a big thing. I asked you guys, hey, can I transfer here? And that was back in 2013 or 14. It was no problem at all to get set up and get right in with you guys. So, one thing I did want to talk about is I know you guys had a stint in Louisville that maybe didn't work out or didn't pan out the way you guys had hoped. I think we live in a society where we celebrate victories, but then we condemn so-called losses. And my view is there are no losses. It's a lesson. And I guess my thing is that I'd like to know is what do you think was the most valuable thing you guys gained from that experience that has helped you in your journey?
I'll say a couple.
Sure.
One is keeping the main thing. Right. So Dr. Lewis and I are rheumatologists, and that's our trade. We try to be excellent at that. And sometimes what you find, and this is common in healthcare professionals too, physicians, is that they'll try to add a secondary issue, but it distracts you from what you're the best at. And one thing we discovered is that this is what we do. We focus down and become excellent at this as compared to being spread out over multiple different businesses. And then the second thing it did is it made us also look at, before you start another adventure, whatever it is, you want to have as much details or as much information as possible. for us, when we look at, well, why are we starting an office in Bowling Green? Well, we went through and looked at all the information we potentially could, which would say, hey, is this going to be a successful business or not? And the difference between that and what we did with a different business in Louisville a number of years ago is just so much different. So would we have done it again, knowing the kind of knowledge we have now? No. But you pay what was it called, stupid tax, right? So we paid some stupid tax on that, and but learned to, like you said, you do learn valuable lessons, and then you try to teach other people that come to you about opportunities.
Yeah, the market analysis that we did up there wasn't of the right type. We looked at more of a disease state and thought we could, make it successful there, and ended up finding that there are healthcare market dynamics up there that kind of make these silos. So if you're a patient in one healthcare system, you're kind of referred to other providers in that system and not hardly ever out. And that was the biggest lesson we learned right there is we couldn't get into those systems to be on the even list to be referred to. And it was a very focused, singular thing we were trying to do up there. It wasn't the general rheumatology practice.
Because there are rumors at some point that there will be another rheumatology practice in Louisville over the next couple of years. So
I like that. We might be dropping a little something there, but we'll hold on with that. But I think what you said about keeping the main thing, and I think this tends to be true across any industry. It's the 80-20 rule. And so 80% of the care you provide is probably for 20%, or I guess 80% of your patients are for 20% of the types of care you provide. Whereas 80% of other things, like you said, the distraction part can come from the 20%. So I think you guys are spot on there. And I think that my next question was going to be about why Bowling Green and all that, but I think you really kind of answered it with your summary of what you learned from Louisville and how you're able to apply better market analysis that gives you guys a better picture of how to not only open, but grow and have a successful practice in Bowling Green as well.
The other thing is we're both involved in our state rheumatology society, and we know a lot of the physicians around the state, probably nearly all of them actually, in rheumatology. And so we have a pretty good understanding of the market dynamics. In our home base here in Somerset, we draw from all of southeastern Kentucky, and we've seen growth west of here in the Edmonton-Glasgow region, and feel like this is another area that's in need of rheumatology support.
So one of the more interesting things too is, aside from the market analysts of that region, is with our offices in New Albany, Indiana, and then in Bowling Green, those are around major academic centers too, with Nashville in that area, and IU and Louisville up in the New Albany area. So, for us, it's talent acquisition in the future, or bringing other nurse practitioners, other physicians, other nurses, gave us a better opportunity in those locations too.
Yeah. Well, to your point too, when I first started going to my former rheumatologist in Franklin, Tennessee, it's when I was living in Bowling Green, but that's where I kind of got referred to, and I ended up there, and it seemed kind of crazy being in a large city like Bowling Green. Of course, I left there in 2013, and the growth there, it's just insane. Just over 7-8 years, how much that city has grown. So I think you guys are in an awesome spot, which I'm a little biased, but still.
It is. I look at Bowling Green. It really is a kind of an ideal situation for growth. Number one, it's a beautiful area, right? So you also have a university. You have a large healthcare system. There's plenty of manufacturing jobs, and then you look at Nashville and the growth of that city. At some point, Nashville's getting expensive, right? So more and more, the thought is that I could be 45 minutes north of here. My cost of living and housing are pretty low, and if I need entertainment or whatever I need from Nashville football games, music concerts, you're 45 minutes away. It's a pretty ideal situation.
And right now you're 45 minutes and about a year away because it's got to be actually open.
Yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
maybe by next year we can have that. So
That's right. That's right.
So I guess next question. So the office in Bowling Green, by the time this airs, you'll probably be planning to open it maybe around mid-September, October. What's the plan look like there?
It's open now.
Open for business. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
So if for somebody that is maybe doesn't have a rheumatologist, maybe has one somewhere else, what I guess should they expect, or what approach should they take to reaching out to you guys for care?
One of the things that we did to help build our practice was that we didn't put any barriers in place. So unless the patient's insurance requires it, you do not have to have a referral to come see us. It's helpful if we have records to help guide us what we're going to be seeing. But if the patient feels like they need to be seen by a rheumatologist, they can simply call our number in Bowling Green and get scheduled.
Yeah, so breaking down of barriers is important. And, in the future, most people, the way they find their rheumatologist, if they're looking for themselves, they just say rheumatologist near me on Google. And we'll appear.
Nice. Okay. I guess, and now we'll kind of start wrapping this up. I mean, is there anything else maybe you guys would like to maybe say to the community in Bowling Green, say to maybe future patients, anything else you'd like them to know about you guys?
Yeah, our mission here is to provide the most efficient care and the best rheumatology care in the state. And we're able to provide that in a large portion of the state currently. Adding Bowling Green only makes sense to give the patients over there access to the care they need.
Yeah, I mean, really what we're trying to do in the state of Kentucky is make, we have big ambitions. Mine is to be the most up-to-date, caring, and greatest rheumatology office in the country. And that's our goal. That's what we're striving for. That's what we're bringing on new doctors, nurse practitioners for. And that's why we started in Bowling Green or other offices.
And speaking of that growth too, maybe for somebody that maybe knows a recently licensed nurse practitioner or doctor, what would be the best way to reach out to you guys about that, as far as maybe looking to join your team?
Yeah, just honestly, my email is. Yeah. I try to stay off of social media. I do. No, just an email, and you can list that with your show notes if you want.
Okay. That'd be fun.
So yeah, just list our email. We get back quickly.
Okay, good deal. I like that. Last thing here, what would maybe me? Obviously, you guys are more than just rheumatologists. You guys are entrepreneurs too, and you guys have hopefully throughout this episode, people have learned too that you guys have a very good mindset, and the approach you take is very respected to growing your business. What would be advice you guys have maybe for either a beginning entrepreneur, maybe an entrepreneur that's a few years into it and feels kind of stuck? What would your advice be there?
Surround yourself with good people, first of all. You can't win without a good team. And understand that if you've got some people that are good in your business, you got to find the right seat on the bus for them. And then secondary, you got to read, especially in medicine, because your medical school training, your residency gives you zero information on how to run a business. And so you try to avoid the so-called stupid tax he's talking about, right?
Yep. I like that. Well, guys, I want to be good stewards of your time, so I don't want to hold you guys any longer. I know it's Friday. We're recording this on Labor Day weekend, so it's a holiday weekend too. So I don't want to hold you guys back from any patients either.
Yeah, well, and I'll say one last thing for the entrepreneurs: you're never too old and you're never too young. So the best time to start it, honestly, is when you're in your teens or your early 20s. If it fails, so what? You've got 40 years to make up of that. So, and before you if you do not have a family and you're a young person, if it fails, no big deal. You start another business. So don't be intimidated by thinking, oh, I have to grow this and be a certain maturation. But also at the same side of that, if you've been in the corporate world for a long period of time, starting a practice when you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s is a great way too, because you also have learned many lessons. So you have a little bit more difficulty if you fail, but there's a lot of different roads you can take to get into the same area.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, guys, like I said, I want to be a good steward of your time. I appreciate everything you guys did taking the time to do this. I think you guys have some absolutely great advice and tips for the audience, and it's always good to hear your story and hear obviously your successes, but then struggles too. And again, like I said, a lesson. It wasn't a loss; it was a lesson. So I really appreciate hearing that too. For my friends and folks in Bowling Green, I hope you guys will reach out to them and get to experience the level of care they can provide for you. And now let's get the address. You guys are on Newtown Drive off of Lovers Lane in Bowling Green. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. 340.
Yeah.
340. And that's there in front of, what's the medical clinic that's there in front of now? I know it's been a couple of different things over the years. Is it,
Yeah, I kind of keep it simple. It's across the street from the soccer complex.
There we go.
That's it.
Good enough. Well, guys, I appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity.